Take care now. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Session is complete. Boy, it's a dark day this morning, isn't it? Dark day, bright shirt. Well, as I was saying earlier today, nothing like a cancer diagnosis to make you start reflecting on things. Not only a cancer diagnosis, I guess, I did. Just a moment, let me get in here. Okay. Okay. Whew. All right. There we go. Yeah, not only did I have my radiation dose this morning, but I did microdose this morning, and it's been a couple days. And that microdosing has been very helpful for me as far as keeping me centered and keeping me on point with my thoughts. And what's important, I used to joke at one point and always say that I like to be a Jiminy Cricket sitting on your shoulder. Remember how in Pinocchio he always had Jiminy Cricket hanging out on him, and he'd always be like, "Oh, don't do that, Pinocchio, no, no." I used to always think that that was cool, your conscience, sitting on your shoulder and warning you. Some of those songs, "I'm no fool, no siree." And that was a big thing when I was a kid. I remember looking at that and seeing Pinocchio, and well, I didn't even put it up here, did I? That's the golden ticket in Southern California. But yeah. On my conscience used to be, that Jiminy Cricket sitting right there. That's kind of what microdosing has done for me. Sometimes when I get ready to start drifting off to the side and doing things that maybe I shouldn't, or feeling or thinking a certain way, and start getting into a lot of negative self-talk, that microdosing has kind of popped me right back into perspective and said, "Hey, watch what you're doing. You're eating too much. That's too much for you to drink. Blah, blah, blah." Just little reminders. Kind of like how I did generally in the mornings. When I get up, I kind of take my little few moments and take a breather and little self-meditate. And then I go through, for years, I used to always go on when Instagram started coming out, and I would go on and I see these great quotes and sayings and memes, they're called nowadays. And I found myself collecting them, grab me some and collecting them. And as I would collect them, I realized one day that I had probably 7,000 to 8,000 of them saved in my phone. You can save thousands upon thousands of photos on your phone. And I had thousands of them. And I was like, one day, I don't know where I'm going to put them at, but I'm going to display them somewhere. So what I started doing was, in the mornings, I would, during my meditation, I would put one out. And I only did one because when I was younger, in Japan, and I know I probably said this story somewhere before, but I'm going to say it now again. So bear with me. I used to get in trouble when I was younger, in my younger days. And I don't know if it's necessarily that I was in trouble. I was a regular kid. There was a little bit of heavy-handedness as I look back and reflect upon it nowadays, because there were things that were happening that was beyond myself. I had a racist teacher in the 8th and 9th grade. This guy would send these notes to my father every day. When I lived on base in Japan, and they had it's called, well, I know in the military, in the Air Force, it's called BITS, Base Information Transfer System. They would put it in the mail, in the mailbox in the school, and then the bits, the military people would pick it up and transfer it to all the different departments, transfer your mail to all the different departments and around the base. And he would say that Samuel was in the back of the classroom talking today. Samuel was doing this today. Samuel was doing that today. I was doing just like everybody else was, talking, being a kid. But I was getting failing grades from that teacher. Interestingly enough, my father and mother didn't care for that, obviously. So I would get the beatings, and you better ask questions, you better do this and you better do that. And he's just really getting, I don't even want to go in more detail in any of that, but I'll say this much. I was on restriction after I got those beatings, and I would stay in the room, and I had to go to, I had to stay in the room, and basically I would only leave the room until it was time to eat or go back to school or take a shower or use the restroom. And that was it. It was like I understood what living in jail, I understood what jail life was like at a young age. But the one thing that I did have that was great, and I loved it, was the radio. We have the FEN, Far East Network. When I got in the Air Force, it was AFRTS, Armed Forces Radio Television Service. But I loved the program they had. As a kid, you could sit back and you could say, hey, you could put in requests for what you'd like to hear. There were some crazy little radio shows we listened to in the mornings. There was one called Chicken Man, which was really goofy. But we would, in the mornings, I would always listen to that. They had the old time radio theater in the evenings. They had the R&B station with Walt Baby Love. It was really good. They had a really good series of stuff. And I'm getting back to my story original. There was a woman that in the morning, it was Hiroko Kubota. And Hiroko Kubota would do the Japanese word of the day. And it was so amazing to me because she'd say, good morning. So today's word of the day is Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu. Ohayo gozaimasu means good morning. And most Japanese could say, blah, blah, she'd go into detail and talk about what it meant and blah, 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 whatever the word of the day was. And I would take that word of the day and I would hang on it and just let it ruminate in my mind all day long. And it was one of those cool things that I remember. I had a good friend. He was Japanese American. And I would get those words and I would hang on to it. It was like before school went, I would hear the word of the day and I keep it in mind, and I go back and I say something to my friend Ricky. Say, hey Ricky, Ohayo gozaimasu. And he'd be like, what? Or they were, whatever the word was, I'd use it in a sentence, or I'd use it because when I was younger, speaking Japanese was like code words. It was like when you're in class and we talk about somebody, we can talk, and it was like code. So it was easy, really easy as a young kid that was an incentive to want to learn Japanese, talk about that person over there, or talk about certain things, or it was like talking in double Dutch, I guess, for some folks. There was that intrigue to it, and it was really cool. So I say all this to say, every morning I hung on that word of the day from Hiroko Kubota. I'm trying to think of what it was, but at the end of every show she would go, and remember, a little language goes a long way. And I used to think, oh man, that was so cool. I felt all special inside. And that's what I kind of wanted my morning post off on Facebook every morning to be like. Some people get these notes and they say, hey, man, where do you get your sayings from? What website do you go to? As if I went to a website and pulled it and put it on my page. Even if I did tell you a website, What most folks seem like they do, they'll go in there and they'll just grab every daggone thing, and they'll, within an hour, they're going to put 7 messages, 7 posts. You don't get enough time to ruminate. You don't get enough time to absorb. You don't get enough time to feel what that statement means, what those words mean. And so I just, made sure I put one up every morning, and it depended on what my day was like. That's what I focused on, depending on what was going on in my day. Sometimes I had issues with people. I tried not to get it. I try not to get political, and I try not to get preachy or religious, because I think a lot of people get turned off by that. But I wanted to be Jiminy Cricket, and I wanted to leave that little word sitting on your shoulder. And I wanted to be one of those things where you say, man, that really actually helped me out today. That little bit of guidance made my day today. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, and in particular with this cancer diagnosis. You sit back and you look at things and you say, man, is this the end? Where do I go from here? How do I stand out and leave my legacy? Am I leaving a legacy? What can I do to help others? Can I leave this small little token of my appreciation for my time here and this insight that I've gained when you're limited in your time here on earth, to leave something? What can I do to contribute to society? And that's kind of what I took that as, and that's kind of what I have used that as. As I mentioned, I had 2 friends that passed away, and my one friend, he passed away. When was that? 2000. I got injured, and the last year that he lived, I was recovering from my surgeries. And he actually happened to get let go from his job. So we got to spend that last year of his life together. We hung out. He'd come by the house. We'd cook. We'd talked about a lot of things. But that was, Facebook was between the two of us as being older at that time. Facebook was the kid stuff at the time. And we started messing around on Facebook. And I remember every morning he'd get up and he'd go, man, I got to go talk to my people. And I'm like, you got to go talk to your people? What are you talking about? And he would go on Facebook and he'd put a joke up there or say something silly. And sometimes we'd have arguments about who was the greatest players in sports, and then everyone would get involved. And that was really cool for us, with social media and how everything works around today. So I'm saying this to say that it was Vincent Edwards, that really inspired me, because hey man, I'm gonna go talk to my people today. And I'm like, man, shut up, man. Rest in peace, Vincent. But that's what my post turned out being. Just something to think about, something to ruminate about. There were things that were on my mind. And I know there are lots of people ask me, I get a lot of inboxes in my mail, and I just, man, I probably got about 200, 300 email messages in my box, and because there's just too much stuff sometimes. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Where do you get it from? Hey, thanks for that thing. You inspired me today, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's cool. I think that's great, and it's a good feeling to know that. You even hear those things about being influenced, being an influencer. I think that stuff is really cool to be that person. Sometimes I just can't get to all of them. Other responses sometimes, there's just an arrogance, and man, I hate to throw race into it sometimes. It's a weird thing when you get why is it that white people, and I just have to say this, you sit back and just because you're a positive person, or you want to be positive in life, or you want to have a positive outlook, or you believe in legacy, as I do, that the things you do are important. Why is it that white people will say, hey, what do you do? What is it that you do? Most folks take things for what they are, what they see. If I was Joe Schmo out in the street, if I was a bum, and I said, "Hey, watch out," you'd have to take that information and work with it or not. But I don't know why. It just seems to be. It's a lot of white people would always ask, "What do I do?" As if there's some kind of, I don't know. There is something behind it. It just seemed like it was rather cutting, demeaning about asking me what I do. What does it matter what I do? And